Okay, so today we're peeling back the layers on one of the most powerful ideologies in history. And what we found in the source material, it's a stunning deception, right at its very core. We're going to expose the anti-national virus that was baked into Marxism from day one. Let's get right into it. So, in our last investigation, we laid out how liberal capitalism could basically be a racket for a wealthy elite. A pretty powerful critique, which leads to the obvious question. What was the alternative? Well, for more than a century, the answer was Marxist communism. It promised to save the worker, right? That was the sales pitch. But was that its real purpose? What if that whole promise was just the wrapping paper? What if the entire ideology was a Trojan horse, designed to look like a gift, but hiding something totally destructive inside? What if its core code, its actual mission, wasn't about saving workers at all, but about destroying the very idea of your country, to literally erase it from the map? To really get this, we have to look at the absolute center of Marxist thought, the engine that drives the whole thing. And it all comes down to one single concept: class warfare. So, the way Marx saw it, all of human history, everything, every war, every invention, every big moment, can be boiled down to a single, endless conflict: the struggle between the workers, the proletariat, and the owners, the bourgeoisie. Nothing else matters. That's the only lens they use to see the world. And this idea is completely all-consuming. Just listen to Lenin's own words from the source text. Our morality is entirely subordinated to the interests of the class struggle of the proletariat. Think about that. Anything, literally anything, can be justified if it helps the class war. Traditional morality, right and wrong, yeah, that gets thrown right out the window. And this right here brings us to what the sources identify as the source's ideology's first great crime: the erasure of the nation. If class is the only identity that matters, what happens to national identity? What happens to your country? You see, the ultimate goal here isn't to make a country stronger. It's a global revolution. And for that to even be possible, the nation itself has to be dissolved first, and then the state has to be abolished completely. But how do we know this was the real plan? Well, the sources point to a quote that feels like reading a declassified document, laying the entire strategy bare. It's a shocking betrayal of the whole idea of a national community. And here it is, the smoking gun from Edward Berth. He describes the class idea, which has replaced the idea of the fatherland. This wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate replacement. Your loyalty is being transferred from your country to your economic class. Just look at this contrast the sources present. It's a total battle of ideas. On one side, you have Marxism, aiming for a global class war that dissolves the national community. On the other side, you've got an opposing ideology like corporatism, which wants national class harmony, the Volksgemeinschaft, or national folk community, where all classes work together for a strong, unified state. Two completely opposite visions for the world. This leads us directly to the second crime outlined in our source material: the globalist endgame. This wasn't just about weakening the nation. It was about paving the way for a whole new international order. And the playbook for this world socialism is pretty simple. Step 1, eradicate national boundaries. Step 2, destroy all the distinct cultures that make us different. And the final goal? To impose global uniformity. So you have to ask yourself, how do you accelerate that breakdown? How do you speed up the process of erasing nations to get to that globalist vision? The answer, found in the text, is completely wild. They found an ally in the most shocking place you could possibly imagine: in their supposed arch-nemesis, capitalism. Yeah, I know, it sounds impossible. But the logic, according to the sources, is chillingly clear. Here's the evidence, straight from Friedrich Engels himself. He admits free trade has a destructive effect, that it destroys the former nationalities, and then he drops the bombshell. And only in this revolutionary sense do I vote for free trade. You heard that right. They supported a pillar of capitalism because it broke down nations, accelerating the revolution. So the goal was never about national liberation. It was about national erasure. It was never about helping the workers of Germany or Russia or China. It was about using them to dismantle their own countries from the inside. But this anti-national agenda, as shocking as it is, was only the first part of the deception. The The sources argue the entire philosophical code of Marxism was built on a lie. A massive intellectual contradiction at its heart that basically guaranteed every single communist experiment would fail and collapse into something far more familiar and far more sinister. The promise was this stateless, classless utopia. But what did all these so-called communist states actually become in practice? In Part 2, we expose the philosophical bankruptcy of Marx and reveal the sinister truth of what this ideology truly creates. We'll see you then.